All right, guys, I'm coming at you with fire here in video 3. Um, when we're talking about cutting the crap, um, cutting out things that people won't miss anyways, it's sort of like an amateur cook putting parsley on a plate to make it look nice. Instead of putting parsley on the plate, just make the core ingredients great. I don't need the parsley. And in fact, if you make the core ingredients great and you just work on your plating, make the core ingredients tasty and great and plate it beautifully, and then you don't need to kind of cover up with parsley and the whole slap ass fanfare. So, in keeping with that, I'm going to show you a company which I'm sure you're familiar with, but there's secret weapons inside of that based on how I use them. I understand that all of this costs money, especially if you don't own these things like Ableton, Nexus, and Isotope. But a lot of this stuff cuts out the flow or the aggravation of lack of flow. A lot of it's very user friendly and just amazing. And all of this stuff I can run on my Asus gaming laptop. So understand that too. I'm not telling you to get things that are only going to work on a gaming tower, but your smaller and lower ability laptop is going to be out to dry. All of this stuff is on my laptop as we speak, the one that I'm recording on. So first things first, I think what'll probably help you guys the most. There's two. If it was my way, I'd have you guys get both. I have both, and they're unbelievably helpful. Um, but I would go for Neutron 3 for mixing, and I'm going to explain in a minute why. And then I would also go for Ozone 9 for mastering. Here's the thing, guys. I understand that there's an artistry to audio, but you also have to understand that music is extremely disposable, unfortunately. It's you're almost 100% unlikely to see a return if you polarized this and strictly isolated a song. The time that you put into making music versus your time back or your money back on it doesn't even compare. You're not going to break even. You're probably not going to profit off of it. So why not use tools that actually really help you get great results quickly so that you can be done and actually have a great track as a result, not just a crappily thrown together track, and still have time to market yourself, go on a jog, lift weights, have a life outside of music, make a good meal, and, have relationships every once in a while. So, the reason why I say Neutron 3 is because Neutron 3, and I'm going to show you this, but it literally shows you where there's frequency masking. So, what does that mean to you? Who cares? Well, we're in dance music, right? Bass is always a huge freaking issue. Here's the beautiful thing about that. If you have a bass line and you have a kick drum, you no longer have to guess. You no longer have to uh, use your ears and go through the existential doubt of you wanting to kill yourself because you just don't know if you're good enough and is your mix good and why am I not getting my emails returned from all these big labels and am I not good? Listen, screw all that. Get Neutron 3 because it literally shows you, and I'll show you how to set it up, where your frequency masking is, and it actually takes care of it inside of Neutron 3. So understand, on a laptop, I probably can't run more than a few instances of Neutron 3 on my laptop. As technology advances, maybe next year, 2 years from now, I'll be able to. But for now, I'm running Neutron 3 on, I think, what is a 2018 Asus gaming laptop. It struggles a little bit because you have to remember, too, I'm running an Ableton session. I'm running a ton of instances of probably Nexus, Massive, Spire, Silent, and Serum, just depending on what I'm doing. And on top of that, there's a ton of other plugins as well. But without overthinking it and panicking, with this as your mixing tool, you should be absolutely fine. And of course, there's ways to minimize your CPU, which we'll talk about, like freezing tracks, bouncing tracks, making the adjustments within Neutron that you need to make. And then once those adjustments are made, you bounce the track so that the adjustment is permanent, which means it's printed, it's on the audio, which means you no longer need to run that instance of Neutron, which means you can delete it which means you just alleviated a ton of pressure on your CPU. But when you have a visual tool that makes it as easy, keyword there, easy, as Neutron, sure, there's free tools out there that do something kind of sort of similar, much harder, much less visually appealing, and in my opinion, way less accurate. It can get you the results, but you're killing your creativity to save a buck. And guys, there's sales on this stuff at least once a year. Black Friday, uh, end of summer sale, beginning of summer sale, New Year's sale, I don't know, spring sale. There's a ton of ways to save on this stuff if you can give yourself time to wait for a sale. If you can't give yourself time to wait for a sale, I'd say bite the bullet and buy it anyways, because it makes it so easy for you. And unlike a lot of other products that can be set up for frequency masking, provided you're willing to go through the rigmarole of setting it up, having it speak to two different tracks so that the signal of two different tracks can be fed into one plugin so that you can color code the two so that you can see where the frequency masking is and then make an adjustment. Screw all that, guys. Take Neutron 3, drag it into your track, turn on the masking. It shows you where it's at. Fix it. You're done. So I get it. This is a higher price point than most things out there, and other tools are free that you can use, and I talked about that in the 30-day production course, the beginner's course. But when you see this versus the pain and effort that I had to go through in that course, it's a world of difference. And we're talking advanced now. We're talking you're on your game. You're talking that you've got some money. Take the next step. Get yourself Nexus. Get yourself Neutron 3. And just to reiterate before I move on to the next, the reason why is because of that frequency masking. You don't have to use Neutron 3 on every single track. Your bass, your kick, your snare, your hi-hat, your lead, your vocal. You don't have to do all that, guys. Just use it to show you where the frequency masking is quickly, easily, and effectively. Do something about it. Neutron 3 makes it very easy, or Neutron in general makes it very easy. You've taken care of a huge problem that completely plagues electronic dance music producers that they don't even know that they have on any sound system until they take it to a festival or a club, listen to it at 100 decibels, and realize, oh my gosh, my bottom end is garbage. How did I not hear this? How did I not know? Listen, guys, there's nothing like testing your tracks on a large and loud club sound system. If you can't A/B your track on a large and loud club or festival system and have it not sound as professional as fill in the blank, I mean, whatever, Tiesto, Marshmello, a Skrillex track, I don't know, a Charlotte DeWitt track, just whoever you like, you're setting yourself up for a very big disappointing feeling when you don't have your bass right. Other things on a large sound system can sort of to a degree be cheated. Bass cannot. Kick drum, sub bass line, even regular bass line cannot be cheated. You have to have that right. And we'll talk about having that right further into when we actually get into production. But for now, arm yourself with the best freaking tools that you can to alleviate headache and years ripped from your life of sitting in at a console wondering why you suck when you'd rather be out chasing girls, chasing guys, raving at a festival, jogging, making great food for you and yours. I'm not saying don't be great. I'm just saying, guys, when technology has been advanced to this level, why are you ignoring it, or why are you letting a couple $100 hold you back from gaining years of time back on your life? So I think I've beat the dead horse on that. Next up from these guys, Ozone 9. I'll be honest with you guys, with electronic dance music being what it is, and with the advancement of technology being what it is, I no longer start from scratch and master my own stuff. I know that the purists just probably threw up a little in their mouth. And I know that most people are going to be like, yeah, it makes sense when you look at Mikey. I could see that. He uses presets. Here's the thing, guys. As I've said multiple times throughout this entire academy, you have to watch your perspective. You have to watch what you accept as truth. You have to think about where that truth has come from. And you have to be careful when comparing what you do behind the curtain versus what the listener in the group of listeners will actually hear, will actually care about, and actually appreciate as the end result, because they can't see behind your curtain. So, what I mean by that is, we're not talking Ozone 1 or 2 here, even though they were great for their time as well. Ozone 9 is so powerful, and the presets are so freaking phenomenal, you don't need to overthink your mastering. Now, I take it a step further, but at the very least, why do you not own Ozone 9? Even if you can't get Neutron, you should get Ozone 9, because even the ability within Ozone 9, without even a multi-track going in, just a stereo file that's already printed, you can no longer adjust the different bass instruments, the kick and the sub bass. It's printed. It's a stereo file as a DJ would get to play in a club. Ozone 9 can still pick apart the individual frequencies and balance your freaking mix for you. So even if you don't know what you're doing with bass, Ozone 9, not from multiple tracks being fed in, a basic stereo wave file that's already printed, it can still discern to a degree where your kick is versus where your sub bass line is and work that out and balance it. Now, if you're not going to take advantage of that as an advanced producer, you're freaking crazy. I understand that you want to learn and understand where inconsistencies and bad habits exist in your mixing. They will surface over time the more you actually produce. Even if you watched every course under the sun, but you never actually got to work on what it feels like to produce a track a week, you're not going to get any better at a rate that you can really scale this. So understand that even if you left my academy and went to a bunch of other different schools and spent your entire life savings on schooling in audio, the only thing that's really going to help you is taking great advice and making a commitment to yourself next month to do a track a week or a track a month for the next year. That will teach you where your bad habits are, and then when you combine that with the latest in technology, you're unstoppable. You're going to be like me. You're going to be better than me. It's unbelievable, guys. So don't shoot yourself in the foot by looking at Ozone 9 and being like, oh, it's too expensive, I can't afford it. That's fine for right now. Make a plan to afford it in a month. Make a plan if July 4th sale is coming or Black Friday sale is coming. Make a plan to afford it. Make a plan to take advantage while it is on sale, because this isn't just mastering anymore. The AI in this, the ability to take a stereo file and separate the bass components of a track and rebalance them so that it is club worthy, so that it is large and loud club or festival sound system worthy, is unbelievable and has never been seen before. So at the very least, Ozone 9 is your king big daddy to go for. I would still get Neutron as well if you can, because that frequency masking and that is something else. Here's the other thing I want you to understand. On top of everything I've already talked about with the frequency masking of Neutron, I also forgot to mention in Neutron there's a mix assistant. So there's a way to set that up. I won't go into it right now, but if you get Neutron, I need you to understand that it has AI built into it now to where it can take your entire session, analyze the different components of it, and mix it for you, volume balance wise. So now it has given you a general overall volume mix, fader mix, and then from there you go in and carve out the EQ and the compression and the panning and the other stuff that you think it may need, which, by the way, Try it, and if it doesn't need compression, get rid of it. Try it. If it doesn't need too much EQ, maybe get rid of it. Save on the CPU. But understand that you're no longer flying alone in your bedroom. You now have an artificial intelligent mix assistant built into Neutron that can balance your mix for you and give you a phenomenal starting point to get you a great mix. How great is that? Now, when you combine that mix assistant, that AI, with frequency masking, your own knowledge, this Music Academy in your ears, it's game over, guys. Don't you realize that? You just won. You just fucking won. Okay? Now, similar to Neutron, Ozone also has AI built into it. And unlike Neutron, which is obviously for mixing, Ozone is for mastering. So Ozone has a mastering assistant. So now, even if you don't want to use presets, or maybe you do, but you're just not sure, and there's some kind of hang up because you're listening to me, but you're also kind of not, guess what? Ozone will analyze your track and basically do it all for you. It's like a smart preset, whereas presets are sort of ready-made and hard. It's like, well, I want the bass house preset. I want the electronic preset. No, I want the modern electronic preset. The mastering assistant inside of Ozone is almost like a preset that is fluid. So instead of you going back into the preset and changing things like you used to have to do, this is a fluid preset that takes your track, analyzes it, does what's best for it based on calculations, and gives you a finished product. I think even from there, you can take that finished product and assist the AI by adjusting anything that seems a little bit out of whack to you in your ears. How amazing is that? It's like everything you need right here, guys. Now, if you want to nerd out a little, hold on one second, Insight. If there's one other thing I could suggest to buy eventually, it is Insight. Insight doesn't actually change your sound. It doesn't do anything for you as far as presets or mixing or mastering. All it is professional metering, so that when you look at your reference, you can see so much about your reference and what the pros are doing. You can see the dynamic range of their track versus yours. You can see the long-term loudness. You can see the short-term loudness. You can see where their bass hits versus your bass. Everything is comparable now from your reference to your session. Let's say you love, I don't know, whoever, Jamie Jones. You want to look at his tracks versus yours, the dynamic range of his tracks versus yours, the loudness of his tracks versus yours, where his hi-hat sits versus yours, the width of his tracks versus yours. Now, you can do that in Ozone and arguably Neutron as well. The difference here, and here's why this is cool for me, is when I co-produce, ghost produce, do stuff for commercials, TV, radio, this plugin, unlike the others, has universal settings for different mediums. So if you're doing a radio commercial, well, how do you know how loud to make it? Is it the same thing as EDM? You can pull up the general preset of what radio generally expects for loudness and dynamic range and everything that you need to make a professional radio commercial, and you can see if you're hitting that mark. Same with movies, same with TV, same with a ton of different things inside of this plugin. So if you have a side business where you're venturing out into other things like mixing TV shows, mixing commercials, producing radio commercials, audiobooks, you now have international standards of what is expected as far as the mark that you need to hit. So you no longer have to assume, you no longer have to worry about if you're going to lose your job because your amateur is showing, your lack of experience is showing, and you hope to God that they don't know that. That's no longer a thing. Somebody needs a podcast from you to be mixed and mastered, you got it right here. Somebody needs a radio commercial mixed and mastered, and you don't know what the target level and dynamic range should be, Insight now tells you. So I lost so many jobs as a budding producer and audio engineer because I produced great work. I always did. People always told me that. But they'd say, it's great, but it doesn't meet the standards of what we need for radio or audiobooks. And I'm like, what do you mean? The problem is I never had anybody explain that to me. They'd never respond back. They would just say, your dynamic range isn't right or your loudness isn't right. Well, can you tell me what the generalized dynamic range is that you're looking for? And maybe I can find a plugin that'll measure that for me, or I can train my eyes to look and train my ears to listen better. I never got help. But guess what? It wasn't their responsibility to help me. Now with Insight 2, it doesn't matter if it's EDM, a podcast, a TV commercial, a radio commercial, or a show for Netflix. You now know the standards that they hold you to and what to do as far as the marks to hit on different things. So, in my opinion, this is well worth the money, but I would save Insight 2 for a rainy day when you've got an extra couple $100 laying around that you want to invest in if and when you're ready to move your business into things like media, TV, radio, movies, podcasting. For now, as an EDM producer and DJ, you don't need this. You can get by with Ozone and Insight, or I mean Ozone and Neutron for sure. But for those of you out there who do work on the side, this thing will now save you jobs that you may have otherwise been fired for because you're still a little green and you're not sure the marks to hit. The amount of money that I lost out on, the heartbreak of jobs that I lost because I just didn't know the international industry standards. And even if I did, I'm not sure I would have known how to do it and what to look for. This plugin now shows you that, not only the standard that you need to hit, but it shows you where your music measures up compared to that standard so that you know what to go back and adjust so that you hit that standard and basically give people no reason to complain about your audio work ever again. That's my take on it. I found it to be true. Get to work on spending some money at Nexus and iZotope. Let's get it.